Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. All right, first and foremost, call the law Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Dash. Give all praise to the Most High Yahweh and Son Yahushua. All right, and of course, double honors go out to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who continue through the Holy Spirit to give us this truth. All right, this is Naaman with the DC camp. And in light of everything going on in the news, all right, there's been a lot of shootings recently all over, not here locally, of course, in the DMV, but I mean across the country. I mean, that's all you hear about. And thinking about that, one can't help but, hey, think of the curses that were put upon us. And I'm going to address one here, and this is from alternet.org. And it says, white people commit the most heinous crimes. This is a given. We all know this. But yet, it goes on to say, so why is America terrified of black men? And of course, the answer to that is, well, you got to go back to the curses. And these are things that the Most High promised that he would do to us for what? Disobeying him. All right? And this devil that he set over us, these Edomites, these so-called white people, that's part of their blessing. Not only is it the sword, all right, and all which entails all knowledge of the ways of war, all right, and how to wage it, which would include deceit, lying and deceit, all right. Think of Revelation 12 and 10. Let's get that real quick. Then I'll come back to what I was actually going to get. This is going to be Revelation 12 chapter. And we scroll down here. It talks about the woman. And if you go all the way back to Genesis, 3rd and 4th chapters, all right, specifically the 4th chapter, we find out that, of course, and you know who the woman is. The woman, this line will eventually become, all right, the nation of Israel, who is married to what? Yahushua. Yahushua being the bridegroom. All right, so we, in effect, stepping out on Yahushua, you got to think of it like, how would you feel if your woman stepped out on you? All right, and if you think about it that way, now it becomes more clear, all right, why these things are happening to us. All right, of course, Jeremiah 6 and 2, let's get that real quick, clear this up. Well, how is the nation of Israel a woman? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2. It says, the destruction of Jerusalem impending. It says, verse 2, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. When it says daughter, it's talking about the nation. All right? It's a comely and delicate woman. All right? So now we go to the curses. The first part of this, it says blessings at Gerizim. All right? And this is Moses. It says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I have commanded thee this day, that the Most High Yahweh thy power will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Think of going back in the same book, to chapter 7, all right, about how he will drive these 7 nations that were more mightier than us out, all right, and when it goes down to 6, how Israel is above all the other nations in the sight of the Most High. See? It says, and all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, which is what? Our children, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep. All right, blessed shall be thy basket and thy store, meaning we will be prosperous in our business dealings. All right. Let's skip on down to 14. It says, "And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them." So guess what happened? Hard-headed Jake, as we are. We went a whoring after other gods. When I make that comparison about the nation of Israel being the woman and Yahushua being the bridegroom, that's exactly what it is. So, one has to think, despite the political atmosphere, especially in America, and they spread that crap throughout the whole world. When you think about it, you can come to no other conclusion other than we're getting the hell beat out of us. So, doesn't that make a case for domestic violence? Whipping us back into shape, right? Consequences of disobedience, number 15. "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." Remember what I read earlier. So here's the flip side of this. "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store." We know Jake's, despite whatever business they want to start, it's not going to last. All right, those are the curses. You'll have stragglers here and there, but we're talking about as a whole, as a nation. And these people, the elites, know this. You can tell how this system is set up. All right, it's to encourage you to get even deeper. All right, to go astray, to widen that gap, if you will, more between you and the Most High. Because they put all these things in front of you. Do this, knowing that, well, in a lot of cases, Jake doesn't know, because Christianity has been pushed on him. But all these things, they got pork and everything. You're told not to eat it. You didn't know till thousands of years later the effects that it would have on your body. But the Most High did. Leviticus 11th chapter. There's certain things you're not to eat. Lobster, shrimp, all these shellfish and things like that. High cholesterol as a result. Blood pressure problems. All these things. See? So these things, these are instructions for us and us only. We're the only ones. I mentioned food, but it's the easiest way for this example to make any sense to you. No one else has these problems but us. When we eat stuff that everybody else eats, and yet we get fucked up. That's because we're under a covenant. Well, they're not. All right. So now let's go back. I had to do that in order to set the stage for this. All right. So now, when we go back to Revelations here. Sorry about jumping all over the place, but hope that's where I can try to make this. Now we come back to the woman. Now you understand who the woman is. All right, it's us. It says, talking about the red dragon, and of course here you have to understand that it's talking about a human adversary. So when you check Satan and devil and all this, it's good to search to the meaning of the words as it pertains to the context. All right. So here it's talking about the physical representation on the earth, which is, and we know this because the Most High deals with balance. So we, supposing to be the righteous, which we were supposed to be, according to Deuteronomy, 4th chapter, these things, these laws, statutes, commandments were given to us, and we were supposed to set an example, but we fell. Other nations were glad that we fell. All right, that's going into Lamentations. All right, they even was it Lamentations 2:15 and 16. They clap their hands, they hiss, and ever since then they've been a concerted effort to keep us, especially in the last several hundred years. All right. All right, now we go to 10, And it says, and I have heard a voice, a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our power and the power of his Hamashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. That's what he does. He enjoys, when you understand what it's talking about in the context of seeing one's nakedness, that's what this devil is expert at doing. He did it to Gad. Let's go to Habakkuk. 2 and 15. All right. Now the heading here is the Most High's answers the prophets. All right. And it talks about how these Edomites, their soul is that is lifted up is not upright in them. And it gives other characteristics. It says, yea, also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man. What is his wine? It's philosophies and doctrine. He neither keepeth at home. Going back to Genesis, what did it say about Cain? That same spirit here. All right. So he was a fugitive and a vagabond. All right. So here he is. He's going out throughout the whole world telling everybody how they should live and what they should do according to him. All right. Again, these are trademarks. These are characteristics of who it's talking about. Who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied. He not only wants what he wants, but he wants what you want. All right. But gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Think about the ancient Greeks when they came into power. The Romans, they had all these. America is the example of those ancient kingdoms. This is the same thing. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. All right. This is the same thing, just over and over. It keeps happening. All right. He exploits the other nations that he gathers to himself for whatever purpose that he wants. All right. Shall not all these take up a parable, verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his. Another characteristic, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. All right. Think about this, people, whoever views this. These characteristics, go back in history, his modus operandi. All right. These are the things that are pointing me to one group of people. And it's the so-called white man, who in the Bible are the nation of Edom, descendant of Jacob's brother Esau. All right. Shall not they rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? And we are. All right. We are a prey. We are fodder. We are trophies, so to speak. All right. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. Think of Isaiah 33 and 1. All right. Because of men's blood and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. All this that he has done, there's no way out of this. It's known as a blood debt. All right. That's Numbers chapter 35, verse 33. All right. This is the only way it's going to be paid back. Let's go into that, because a lot of people who view this are going to say, oh, no, that can't be right. God is all love. It says cities for the Levites, cities of refuge. All right. So let's go on down here to 33. It says, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Ain't no I'm sorry and all this other crap. So let's get back to this. We all know that these people, they're the ones that commit the most heinous crimes. Who dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? The atom bombs. All right? And they made them even more lethal, because you got to understand, it's all nuclear. All right? But the first bombs were fission bombs. That means they split the atom. But there was a limit to how much of a yield you could get from that. So, well, what will we do now? So now you got the opposite. You got fusion. So you start slamming a bunch of shit together. And now we got a thermonuclear reaction. Way more powerful. That's the only difference. All right. So you can get much more of a yield. I think they went up to, the Russians did 100. Well, they didn't do 100. My mistake. They cut it in half. because they feared that, would have far more reaching, devastating results. So they cut it in half to 50 megatons, and that's the Tsar Bomba, and they detonated it off the far northern coast, Russia, and I believe it was in 61. And the shock wave went around the earth 3 times. That's just one bomb. All right, think about that. So here are these people, that's what they specialize in, that's their blessing, the sword. All right. Now, after all this, it's the black man, so-called. It says, while whites can do and do commit a great deal of minor and major crimes, the race as a whole is never tainted by those acts. But when blacks violate the law, all members of the race are considered suspect. All right. As I used to anchor a show on Court TV, and when we heard about a new arrest for some horrific crime, my African-American co-host would whisper, please don't let him be black. And I know a lot of us have done that. All right. I would never enter in my mind to wish that a bad guy not be white, because no matter how sick the crime, other members of the white race are not impugned. All right, and let's look that word up, impugned. All right. Come on now. All right. Impugn, it says a verb, dispute the truth, validity, or honesty of a statement or motive, call into question. All right. No one will call into question that because we've been programmed. All right. It's the black guy. Remember that little girl video several years ago? About her mother's, I think she stole some cookies or something. And the little girl, what did she say? It was a black. Here we go. Let's go to 37. Here it is. It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all nations, whether the Most High Yahweh shall lead thee. All right. Going on down. Verse 45, it says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So this alone discounts those so-called Jews, those Amalekites, those other Edomites that say they are us. These things don't stick to them like that. And in the words of the late Secretary of War, when the Secretary of Defense office was called the Secretary of War, Benjamin Freeman, he said that so-called Jews put themselves, all right, and set themselves up in those positions in order to try and fit the curses. But they don't. The women being bald, that's not them. Think of the so-called black woman, she can't grow any hair. A whole multi-billion-dollar industry is set up to prosper off of that curse. Mm-hmm. It's right in front of your face. All right. But another thing you have to consider, they've gone to great lengths, all right, with this Holocaust bullshit. And that in and of itself takes away from what we're going through. All right. Let's go to Daniel. Because if you didn't have that put out there, all right, and they, I don't know, whatever word you want to use, extort, con, whatever, they've managed to do that to the world, all right, and gain much wealth. They get money every year, all right, over that lie. This is Daniel chapter 9. It says Daniel's prayer for his people. Let's go down to 12. It says, and he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us by bringing upon us a great evil. And the nation of Edom certainly are a great evil. For under the whole heaven had not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. Remember, Jerusalem is a people before it is a place. So no matter where we are, that's another way how to identify who the people are. But they've used Christianity, plantation Christianity, as a weapon. Remember, these people's blessing is a sword. So they tend to weaponize everything. That's just the way their mindset is. That's, not only the way they look as a curse, but that mindset, all right? They're just a wicked people. You've got people that, by and large, not bothering anyone, all right? And yet, least little move you make, say at a traffic stop, you get 4 or 5 clips, loaded into you. And how many videos have you seen of white people with pipes, with knives, chasing the cops running away? So it's not bullshit. It's not lies. We're under siege. We've always been under siege. Don't be fooled by the fact that, well, to be more accurate, we're still a slave. All right, don't be fooled because, you can get this high-paying job and all this. Chances are, what do you have to do in order to get that? It's another thing our people don't consider. They look at certain celebrities and sports stars and things of that nature, not taking into account what these people have to do in order to maintain certain status behind the scenes, what's going on. Continuing on, I don't want to make this too long, but it says the standard assumption that criminals are black and blacks are criminals is so prevalent that in one study, 60% of viewers who viewed a crime story with no picture of the perpetrator falsely recalled seeing one, and of those, 70% believed he was African American. When we think about crime, we see black even when it's not present at all, because we've been conditioned. This is what this devil has succeeded in doing. Where did this insulting stereotype come from? The blacks as criminals image has been with us at least since the 19th century, when explicit racism portrayed African American slaves' essential nature as ignorant and savage, in need of the civilizing influence of the white man. At that time, little black crime actually occurred as slaves' lives were rigorously controlled, and they could be and often were swiftly put to death or for perceived offenses against the slave owners. Take Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, other incidents of that kind. It says, at the time, and they could be and often were swiftly put to death for perceived offenses against the slave owners who acted as judge, jury, and executioner. As Chief Justice Roger B. Taney said in the famous 1857 Dred Scott v. Sanford decision about the Founding Fathers' mindset in drafting the Constitution. For you ignorant pieces of shit, I'm talking about amongst our people that think that Constitution had anything to do with us. It just said it right there. He goes on to say, this is Chief Justice Roger B. Taney. blacks had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and traffic, whenever profit could be made by it. And that's the same way they think today. Everything's contractual. All right. 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment. All right. It says, in contrast, white slavers, who should have been the real criminals, imprisoned African Americans, I hate that term, on their plantations, forcing them to live short, harsh lives in extreme poverty, working without any compensation, constantly subjecting them to regular beatings and threats of violence. Terrorism. Female slaves are often raped by white male slave owners, and you have to also acknowledge that the male slaves were often raped by white male slave owners. Gotta put that in, along with children. Yes, these animals did this. Look up buck breaking. Well into the 20th century, lynchings of blacks in the southern United States were not only common, but were social events where white families could bring in the children and picnic lunch. Get a load of that. Get a load of that. Here's another article I'll throw in. Even more black people were lynched in the U.S. than previously thought, study says. Well, no shit. The number of African Americans lynched in New York, all you got to hear is about maybe 10 years of some Holocaust shit. And when you research it, in 1933, they declared war on Germany. Type it in. It's easy to Google. And yet, they want some sympathy, and people give it to them. The number of African Americans lynched in southern states in the 19th and 20th centuries is, it's not only the South, people, that's another thing you got to consider here. The report is the latest in a series of attempts to document the true number of lynching victims in this country. Skipping on down for time's sake. Researchers said they determined that 3,959 black people were killed in racial terror lynchings in a dozen southern states between 1877 and 1950. The new number includes 700 people who were not named in previous work, seeking to comprehensively document the toll. All right, some of those previous studies were conducted at a time when lynching was still an ongoing phenomenon. Of course, they're going to lie. You've got to consider, all right, a lot of these were what you would call off the books. It says in their 1995 book, Tolney and Beck also cited two others, in inventories, both of which were produced amid what they call a frenzy of lynching in southern states between 1882 and 1930. The Chicago Tribune's annual list of lynching victims, published in the late 19th century and early 20th century, and the NAACP's 1919 report finding that 3,224 people were lynched from 1889 to 1918. All right. Tolney and Beck sought to tie together these earlier resources as well as contemporaneous news accounts, writing in a festival of violence, that they worked with these sources to try to come up with an updated record of victims. They determined that more than 2,400 black people were killed by lynch mobs in the South between 1882 and 1930. All right. Now, what you have to consider here is, I'm trying to find it. Oh, got my state in this. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Because it's somewhere in here it says that there was one lynching, at least one lynching every 8 years. You times 48, of course, times 52. All right. Hold on. Let's see. because this is a low ball count here. All right. It says, must read. It says, this is from the Southern Poverty Law Center. History of lynchings in the United States and the South documents nearly 4,000 names. All right. But still, we will never know. So yeah, I'll post both of these, of course, in the description box. You can read those for yourselves. But more and more, they like to point out what we do. Somehow people just discount. But yet, as the apostles and elders always say, the worst people you can ever deal with are that bald-faced Edomite in the suit and tie. All right, so again, oh boy, let's see how much time. Oh wow, yeah. So with that, I hope whoever reviews this is edified, of course. This article here, white people commit the most heinous crimes, so why is America terrified of black men? All right, and this other one, it says even more black people were lynched in the U.S. than previously thought. Study finds. Like, duh. But until they said, we've always said that. We've always known that. But this again is an example of so-called, well, it's not so-called, it's an example of Edomite privilege. They're in their kingdom. What they say goes. Everybody just, hey, the wicked rule. What can you do? That's why you have to want. You have to pray that this place goes down. All right? Yesterday. If you're not tired of this shit, of this existence, because you're not living, this is existing. I personally don't want to be around people like that. All right, so with that, call the law Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, Shem Kakadash. All right, double honors once again to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. All right, and Shalom.